Hey bro, what's up? Hope you're chilling and ready because we've got to talk about this new NBA 2K26 update 1.05 in a way that actually makes sense if you've been grinding modes nonstop. This update isn't some tiny background patch that does nothing. It actually fixes a bunch of stuff that's been annoying players for weeks, especially if you hang out in the city, hit pro-am sessions every night, or play long streaks in modes that were acting weird lately. Right away, the most noticeable change is that those weird visual glitches that kept popping up, like invisible players or clothing items showing up that shouldn't even exist, finally got smoothed out. If you've ever loaded into the city and saw someone looking like a floating pair of shoes or a half-loaded mannequin, you know exactly how distracting that was. Those glitches didn't just look goofy, they messed with immersion and sometimes affected how players were displayed during matchmaking or even how animations triggered. Now the environment feels more stable, and you're less likely to run into someone who looks like their textures fell off on the way to the court. Another big fix that people will appreciate: the hangups and freezes during matches. If you've played multiple Pro-Am, Rec, or Proving Grounds games back to back, you've probably dealt with those rare but insanely annoying freezes where the screen locks right after a match or when loading into the next one. This update targets exactly that problem. One of the nastiest bugs happened when you stepped onto a got next spot while your equipment wheel was still open. The game would just lock like it had enough of your grind. That's been fixed too. It makes the whole online loop smoother especially for people who like to run long streaks or queue up with squads for hours. They also tuned up some mode flow and UI issues that weren't game ending but were still pretty irritating. For example, the player matchup screen at the start of theater games and Proving Ground sessions sometimes showed the wrong stats or straight up missing info. Now those numbers display the way they're supposed to. It feels better going into a match actually knowing who you're facing, especially if you're someone who likes to break down matchups before the game starts. And for the people who care about event integrity, private matches no longer count toward Pro-Am Summit events. So no more weird inflated event numbers just because someone was running practice lobbies or trying things out privately. A small but clean improvement is that teammate chemistry boosts now actually show up in the HUD when you earn them. Stuff like that makes a difference because in the middle of a possession, knowing when your team is getting extra boosts affects play calling, passing, and tempo. It's one of those subtle features that should have always been there, and now it finally works consistently. The patch also includes Season 3 assets and presentation updates. We're talking new player scans, updated uniforms, corrected arena visuals, updated sponsor logos, little tweaks that make the world feel more current. It's the kind of update that might not change gameplay, but if you're streaming or recording content, it just makes the visuals cleaner and more aligned with real-life league stuff. Nothing's more annoying than using a team that's wearing outdated gear while the real world has already moved on. Gameplay-wise, this isn't some huge shift in the meta. It's more like a tune-up. There were fixes around certain officiating moments, like how 3-second violations were called in specific modes, and they added proper support for the late quarter heave rule in the first 3 quarters. If you're someone who loves running clock plays, hitting strategic buzzer beaters, or messing with timing, you'll notice the difference during those tight moments at the end of a quarter. It changes how certain possessions feel without breaking anything or forcing players to relearn a mechanic. But the overall vibe of the update is stability first. Everything in this patch feels like the developers were trying to make the game more dependable. Clean loading screens, stable back-to-back matches, accurate stat displays, proper event tracking, things that seem small but make daily gameplay feel smoother. For players who love long sessions, this kind of stuff matters way more than some random minor buff or nerf. It reduces interruptions and gives you that feeling of just playing basketball without the game stumbling over itself. If you're someone who creates content or records gameplay, these stability fixes make your footage way cleaner. No more random invisible outfits or glitchy players ruining the frame. Clips look more consistent, and your progress feels more legitimate because the UI is no longer giving wrong numbers or counting matches incorrectly. Overall, Update 1.05 is one of those patches that quietly makes the experience significantly better without calling attention to itself. It's like the game finally stopped tripping over the same mistakes and decided to smooth out the rough edges so players can focus on competing, running lobbies, exploring the city, and just playing without wondering if the next screen is going to freeze. It's the kind of update you appreciate the more you play because everything just feels a little sharper, a little more reliable, and a lot less frustrating.